The night over ancient Egypt is quiet now. The long heat of the day has slowly drifted away from the land, leaving only warm air resting above the earth. The desert wind moves softly through dry grass and along dusty paths that have carried feet for many years. Somewhere far away, water from the Nile gently presses against the shore in slow and patient rhythms. Small homes made of mud brick sit beneath the stars. Their walls still hold some of the warmth from the day. Flat rooftops rest quietly beneath the night sky. Thin streams of smoke no longer rise from cooking fires. Bread ovens have cooled. Workshops have become silent. Markets have emptied. Most of the world is sleeping. And somewhere in the sleeping world, a child is resting beneath a simple woven blanket. Perhaps the child lies beside brothers and sisters. Perhaps beside parents and grandparents. Families often slept close together. Homes were not large places. Rooms were few. Nights belonged to everyone together. The child shifts slowly in sleep. Tomorrow will arrive early. Tomorrow always arrives early. Growing up here was not a short journey toward comfort. It was not a place where childhood stretched out gently and slowly. It was something else. It was a long lesson. A quiet lesson. A lesson taught by heat and work and waiting. A lesson in endurance. Far above, stars cover the dark sky like scattered grains of white sand. Ancient people looked at these stars often. They knew them well. The stars moved slowly across the heavens and returned again and again. Children learned their patterns before they knew many words. The world itself became their teacher. Long before sunrise, before birds begin calling and before the first pale colors touch the horizon, movement begins inside the home. A mother wakes first. She opens her eyes into darkness. For a moment she lies still. Around her she hears slow breathing. Small sounds. Someone turning in sleep. Someone softly snoring. Outside, the night still rests over the village. Then she sits up. Stone beneath bare feet feels cool. The day begins. Nearby, another child begins to stir. Eyes open slowly. Sleep leaves in small quiet pieces. There are no long mornings here. No lingering beneath blankets. The rhythm of the world asks people to rise before the sun grows strong. The child sits up and rubs tired eyes. Outside, darkness has become softer now. The edge of the sky carries the faintest gray light. Already the smell of bread is returning. Hands begin moving through familiar routines. Grain is prepared. Water jars are lifted. Fires are carefully brought back to life. Small hands begin learning these routines almost immediately. Children watched first. Then children helped. Then children worked. There was no sharp line separating childhood from adulthood. Instead there was a gradual path, quiet as river water. A small boy follows his father outside. Dust presses softly beneath his feet. The air still feels cool now. This coolness will not stay long. Soon sunlight will spill over the land. Soon heat will spread over roads and fields and walls. But for now, morning belongs to soft shadows. Other people are waking too. Doors open. Voices speak quietly. Workers walk along narrow roads carrying baskets and tools. Sandals brush against packed earth. The village slowly breathes itself awake. The boy carries something small today. Maybe a bundle of rope. Maybe tools. Maybe nothing heavier than a water container. His arms are not strong yet. No one expects great strength from him. Not yet. But strength is coming. Strength always comes slowly here. Children learn this lesson early. They learn that hands grow stronger little by little. Feet become harder little by little. Shoulders carry more little by little. Everything happens slowly. The Nile waits nearby. The river is always there. Always moving. Always breathing life into the land. In the early morning light it looks calm and silver beneath the sky. Fishermen are already moving along its edges. Some push boats gently into the water. Some untangle nets. Some stand silently watching the river itself. A child watches too. Watching is important. Children watched constantly. They watched hands shape clay. They watched men pull fishing nets. They watched women grind grain. They watched workers lift stone. Watching became learning. Learning became doing. The boy follows his father toward fields that stretch beyond the village. The land here changes suddenly. One moment there is dry earth. Then green appears. The Nile gives life to long narrow spaces of rich soil where crops rise from the ground. Wheat moves softly beneath morning wind. Birds move through reeds. Water glitters nearby. Work begins early because heat arrives quickly. Adults know this. Children learn it soon enough. Hands move through familiar labor. Plants are checked. Tools cut into earth. Water channels are cleared. The child helps where small hands can help. Not because anyone speaks long lessons. Not because someone says now you are old enough. The work simply exists. And everyone moves with it. The sun rises higher. Warmth slowly spreads. Morning coolness begins disappearing. Dust sticks gently to skin. Sweat appears. The child wipes his forehead. Already he feels tired. Already his feet feel heavy. Already he understands something important. Days are long. Very long. Nearby other children work too. Some scare birds from fields. Some carry baskets. Some gather reeds. Some help with animals. A little girl follows her mother carrying water from the river. The jar is small. Smaller than the jars adults carry. But even small jars become heavy after a while. Her arms ache. Her shoulders feel tired. She keeps walking. Dust rises around her ankles. She says nothing. Children learned endurance this way. Not through speeches. Not through grand lessons. Through repetition. Through one day becoming another. Through waking before sunrise again and again. Through carrying small burdens that slowly became larger ones. Morning moves gently forward. The sun climbs. Heat settles across the land. Workers pause sometimes. Hands rest. Bodies lean against walls or trees. People drink water carefully. Children sit quietly nearby. No one rushes. The world itself moves slowly. And in these moments children rest too. A little breeze passes over the fields. For a moment everyone feels relief. Eyes close. Faces lift toward moving air. Then work begins again. Because work always begins again. By midday, sunlight presses heavily across Egypt. Stone walls become warm. Roads become hot. The air itself seems to stand still. Children feel it deeply. Adults feel it too. Everyone does. The heat enters muscles. It settles into backs and shoulders. It makes movements slower. A young worker sits beside a wall and drinks water from a clay cup. Sweat cools slowly on skin. Nearby another child sits with knees pulled close. Eyes look across distant fields. Perhaps thoughts wander. Perhaps there are no thoughts at all. Just quiet tiredness. Ancient childhood often carried this feeling. Not sadness. Not misery. Simply weariness. Simple human weariness. Bodies growing. Bodies learning. Bodies adjusting. Far away someone bakes bread. The smell travels through warm air. Fresh bread carried comfort through these lands for countless years. Children knew that smell well. They woke to it, returned home to it, fell asleep after it. The scent drifted through villages like something familiar and gentle. Like a quiet promise that evening would eventually come. But evening remains far away still. The day stretches onward. And the lesson continues. The day stretches slowly across the land, and the sun now hangs higher above the Nile. Its light rests on the river and scatters into small pieces that dance across the water. From far away, the river seems almost still. But close to the shore, gentle movement never truly stops. Small waves touch mud and reeds. Water birds step quietly through the shallows. The heat grows heavier now. It settles over fields and roads and village walls like an invisible blanket. Dusty paths become brighter beneath the sun. Sandals press against warm ground. Stone surfaces slowly gather heat and hold it. Children feel this warmth everywhere. They feel it in their feet and shoulders. They feel it on the backs of their necks. They feel it in their eyes as sunlight reflects from pale earth and water. A young boy sits beneath the thin shade of a tree near the edge of a field. His breathing has become slower after work beneath the morning sun. Beside him rests a small basket. A few scattered pieces of grain lie near his feet. He rubs tired hands together. Not because they hurt badly. Only because they are becoming used to work. Hands slowly change. A child may not notice it day by day. But seasons pass quietly, and skin becomes rougher. Fingers become stronger. Arms grow steadier. The world shapes people slowly here. Nearby, workers sit together in silence for a while. Some lean against baskets. Some close their eyes for a few moments. Others speak softly. No one uses many words. The heat itself asks for quiet. Even birds seem slower now. In villages beside the Nile, much of life moved with the rhythm of sunlight and temperature. Morning invited labor. Midday asked for patience. Children learned patience long before they fully understood the word. A little girl sits beside her mother near a grinding stone. The stone surface has become smooth from many years of use. Countless hands have pushed grain across it. Countless mornings have begun beside it. She watches carefully. Her mother moves grain with practiced motions. Back and forth. Back and forth. Slow and steady. Dust from the grain rises softly into warm air. The girl tries to help. Her small arms push carefully. For a moment she smiles quietly. Then the weight becomes harder. Arms become tired. Shoulders begin to ache. Still she continues a little longer. No one tells her she must become stronger. No one announces a lesson. Life itself speaks quietly enough. She learns through movement. She learns through repetition. She learns because tomorrow these same hands will return here again. And the day after that. And many days after that. The village itself breathes slowly beneath the afternoon heat. Shadows shrink beneath buildings. Animals rest where they can find shade. Goats lie quietly near walls. Dogs sleep with heads resting on dusty ground. Cats move through narrow spaces between homes and workshops. From somewhere nearby comes the sound of pottery being shaped. Hands press clay gently. Water smooths rough surfaces. The wheel turns slowly. A child watches. Children often stood nearby while work unfolded around them. They absorbed the world little by little. They learned how baskets were woven, how fishing nets were repaired, how bread dough felt beneath warm hands. Small eyes watched everything, because one day those same hands would repeat the same movements. And somewhere deep inside, children knew this. Perhaps not with words, but with feeling. A young boy walks beside his older brother toward the riverbank. The road beneath them is dry and dusty. Small stones shift beneath sandals. Warm air moves across their faces. Neither speaks much. Their bodies are tired from the day already. Still, there is comfort in walking together. At the river, fishermen are preparing their nets again. Hands work steadily. Ropes are checked. Knots are tied. Wooden boats rest partly on shore. Children stand nearby watching the quiet work. The river always carried lessons too. The Nile was patient. It rose and fell with the seasons. It brought rich soil. It fed villages. It fed families. Its presence shaped nearly every part of life. Children grew up hearing river sounds every day. Water touching reeds. Boats moving softly. Paddles dipping quietly beneath the surface. Voices drifting across water. Even at night the river never completely slept. The older brother kneels beside the shore and touches the water with tired fingers. The younger boy copies him. Coolness spreads across skin. Both sit quietly. The air near the water feels softer. For a few moments there is nothing to carry. Nothing to lift. Nothing to pull. Only water moving slowly toward distant places. Children remembered moments like these. Small moments. Simple moments. Not because they were rare, but because tired bodies notice rest very deeply. The afternoon continues. Farther away, inside crowded workshops, workers shape wood and stone and cloth. Light enters through small openings. Dust floats slowly through warm air. Hammering sounds rise and fade. The smell of wood shavings mixes with sweat and clay and heated earth. A child carries small tools from one side of a room to another. Back and forth. Back and forth. Not difficult work. Not heavy work. But steady work. The kind of work that quietly fills entire days. Ancient childhood often unfolded this way. Not through great events. Not through sudden changes. Instead through small repeated moments. A hand passing tools. Feet carrying water. Eyes watching skilled movements. Bodies growing tired and growing stronger together. Outside, sunlight slowly begins changing. It remains bright, but softer colors now appear along walls and roads. The harshest heat begins easing little by little. People notice it immediately. Shoulders relax. Movements feel lighter. Voices become easier. Children notice it too. Because tired legs know when the day begins loosening its grip. The little girl from earlier walks home beside her mother. Dust rises around their feet. The jar she carries feels heavier now than it did in the morning. Not because the jar changed. Because the day changed. Because muscles have worked and lifted and walked beneath the sun. Because growing up was often like this. Not one great challenge, but many small ones resting beside each other. Day after day. Season after season. Along the road they pass neighbors returning from fields. Workers carry tools across shoulders. Some walk slowly. Some speak softly. Some simply enjoy the feeling of evening approaching. Children walk among them. Small feet beside larger feet. Small shadows beside larger shadows. The village begins preparing for night again. And slowly, almost without anyone noticing, another lesson settles gently into young hearts. Even the longest day eventually grows quiet. The evening arrives gradually across the land, almost as if the day itself has grown tired and wishes to rest. The sunlight softens over the Nile. Bright white light becomes warmer now. Gold settles gently across river water. Long shadows stretch beside homes and along dusty roads where countless feet have walked since morning. The air changes. People feel it immediately. The heavy hand of afternoon heat slowly loosens. Warm wind moves again between houses and through narrow spaces between mud brick walls. The earth still holds warmth from the long day, but now it begins releasing it back into the world little by little. Workers start making their way home. A farmer walks with slow steps beside a field that has occupied his hands since sunrise. Dust clings to his ankles. His shoulders ache in familiar places. Nearby his young son follows, carrying a small bundle beneath one arm. The boy feels every step now. His legs are tired. His feet feel heavy. Even the small bundle seems larger than it did before. Still he walks. Children often learn something quiet during these evening walks. Morning work sometimes felt endless. Midday heat sometimes felt too large to escape. But evening always came eventually. The sky itself taught patience. Slowly. Without speaking. As they walk, the village ahead begins filling with soft sounds. Voices drip through the air. Doors open. Clay jars touch stone surfaces. Goats move through small streets. Children call softly to one another. The smell of cooking rises into the evening light. Bread again. Always bread. Warm bread carried the scent of comfort through villages beside the Nile for countless years. Grain had been planted beneath the sun. Cut by tired hands. Ground across smooth stone surfaces. Mixed and shaped and baked beside warm fires. Children knew every part of this journey. They watched food travel from earth to table. They understood work through food long before they understood larger ideas. A little girl enters her home carrying water. Her mother kneels beside a low oven where heat still glows softly. The smell wrapping around the room feels warm and familiar. Outside, evening shadows slowly climb walls. Inside, simple meals begin appearing. Bread. Vegetables. Fish if the river had been kind. Dates perhaps. On special days, something more. Children sit nearby waiting quietly. Not because they are perfectly patient. Because they are tired. Deeply tired. There is a difference between ordinary tiredness and the tiredness that comes after a full day beneath the Egyptian sun. It settles into the body gently. Eyes move more slowly. Voices become softer. Hands rest in laps. The body begins preparing for sleep long before darkness arrives. Nearby, another family gathers outside their home. The air feels cooler beneath the open sky. Some families spent evening hours on rooftops where moving air felt easier to find. Flat roofs often became quiet places after long days. A father sits with legs stretched before him. Beside him sits his young daughter. Neither says much. The silence between them feels comfortable. Far away the Nile catches the final light of day. Birds cross slowly overhead. The world seems to exhale. Children loved these moments even if they never spoke about them. Because evening belonged to rest. Because evening meant burdens becoming lighter. Because evening meant tomorrow had not arrived yet. In another part of the village, fishermen returned from the river. Boats touched shore softly. Wood presses against mud. Hands pull nets from water. Children run toward fathers and brothers returning from work. Not quickly. Even excitement moves gently after a long day. The fishermen carry the smell of river water with them. Wet reeds. Mud. Fresh fish. Cool air from the river itself. A young boy watches his older brother untangle rope beside a boat. Small fingers reach forward to help. Slowly he copies the movements. Loop after loop. Knot after knot. Children often learn through imitation long before they learn through explanation. Hands simply followed hands. Bodies copied bodies. Life moved forward this way. Night continues gathering above. The western sky grows deeper. Gold becomes orange. Orange becomes softer shades of purple and blue. Stars begin appearing one by one. People notice them. Ancient Egypt lived close beneath the sky. Very close. Without bright lamps and distant noise, the heavens felt enormous above sleeping villages. Children knew these stars. Some watched them every night. Some listened to stories about them. Some simply stared upward while sleep slowly approached. A little boy lies on a rooftop beside his family. Stone beneath him still feels warm from sunlight gathered through the day. Above him stars spread farther than he can imagine. He watches quietly. Nearby his mother speaks in a soft voice. Someone yawns. Someone shifts beneath a woven blanket. A breeze touches his face. His eyes begin feeling heavy. Earlier today his feet walked dusty roads. His hands carried small burdens. His shoulders felt the weight of growing responsibilities. Tomorrow he will wake again before sunrise. Tomorrow he will help again. Tomorrow he will watch and learn and carry and walk. Not because tomorrow is unusual. Because tomorrow is ordinary. An ordinary life in ancient Egypt slowly shaped children into adults. Day after day. Year after year. Quietly. Like water smoothing stone. Like wind moving across desert sand. Growing up here was rarely a sudden thing. No great moment arrived announcing that childhood had ended. Instead, childhood slowly faded into work and routine and endurance. A little more responsibility each season. A little more strength. A little more tiredness. A little more understanding. Night settles deeper now. The village grows quieter. Cooking fires fade. Voices disappear behind mud brick walls. Animals settle into sleep. The Nile continues moving through darkness. Always moving. Always patient. And beneath the endless sky, children closed tired eyes and drift into sleep, while the ancient world around them becomes quiet once again. Night rests gently over the village now. The stars have climbed higher across the dark sky, and the Nile continues its quiet journey through the sleeping land. Water brushes softly against reeds near the shore. Somewhere in the distance, a boat tied along the riverbank shifts almost silently with the movement of the current. Most sounds have disappeared. The ovens have cooled. The roads are empty. Workshops have fallen quiet. The long day has folded itself away. Inside homes made of mud brick, families sleep close together. The walls hold traces of warmth from the sun that touched them hours before. Woven mats rest across stone floors. Blankets lie lightly over tired bodies. A young boy turns in his sleep. One arm rests beneath his head. The deep tiredness of a day filled with movement still lives in his muscles. Children often slept quickly. Bodies that worked from sunrise rarely argued with sleep. Rest arrived like slow river water. It simply came. Hours pass. Stars continue their silent travel overhead. The world feels still. Then, somewhere in the darkness, morning begins again. Not with light. Not yet. Morning first arrives as tiny movements. A mother opens her eyes. A father shifts beneath a blanket. Someone coughs softly. Someone sits up. Outside, the world remains dark blue beneath fading stars. The air feels cooler now than it will later. This coolness is precious. People know this. Workers know this. Children learn it too. The first moments before sunrise often felt gentle. The earth seemed quieter then. Even the wind moved softly across the land. The boy slowly opens his eyes. For a few moments he simply lies still. He hears breathing around him. He hears distant footsteps outside. He hears the river somewhere beyond the village. Sleep still pulls gently at him. His eyes want to close again. But the world is already waking. The day has started without waiting. Children learned another lesson here. Days moved forward whether someone felt ready or not. Morning came. Fields waited. Water waited. Animals waited. Work waited. Outside, the sky slowly begins changing. Black becomes deep blue. Blue becomes gray. Along the edge of the world, thin pale light quietly appears. People step from their homes. Sandals touch dusty ground. Clay jars are lifted. Voices speak softly in the early hour. The village breathes itself awake once more. A little girl walks beside her older sister carrying a small basket. She yawns as she walks. Her eyes still feel heavy. Sleep has not completely left her. She rubs her face with small tired hands. Around her, the world feels peaceful. Birds have not fully begun singing yet. The roads remain mostly empty. The air still carries traces of cool night. These moments before sunrise often belong to quiet work. Water was collected. Fires were prepared. Grain was gathered. Children watched these routines from the beginning of life. The rhythm settled into them naturally. No one needed to explain much. The world repeated itself patiently. Again and again. Again and again. Nearby, bread dough is already being prepared. Hands move through familiar motions. Water mixes with grain. Fingers press and fold and shape. The smell of earth and grain rises softly. Soon warmth from ovens will spread through homes. Soon the scent of baking bread will travel through narrow roads once again. Children knew this smell almost as well as they knew sunlight. It lived beside mornings. It lived beside family. It lived beside ordinary days. The boy from yesterday walks with his father toward the fields. The sky behind them grows brighter with every step. Dust shifts beneath sandals. Cool air brushes against skin. For now, walking feels easy. The heat has not yet arrived. Around them, others walk too. Farmers. Workers. Builders. Fishermen moving toward the river. Servants carrying tools. Scribes making their way through village streets. Everyone follows familiar paths. Everyone moves with the day. The boy looks around quietly. He has walked these roads many times already. And still he watches everything. Children watched endlessly. A donkey carrying baskets. Birds lifting from reeds. A fisherman pulling rope. Smoke rising into the brightening sky. The world itself felt like a long lesson unfolding around them. Ahead, sunlight finally reaches the land. At first it touches only the highest places. The tops of walls. Palm leaves. The distant edges of fields. Then slowly light spreads everywhere. Shadows pull away. Colors return. The Nile catches morning light and glows softly. Another day opens across ancient Egypt. Another day of movement. Another day of lifting and carrying. Another day of learning through work and routine. And children step into it once again. Not yet grown. Not yet strong. Still becoming. Still learning the quiet endurance that life gently asked of them every day beneath the ancient sun. Morning light spreads farther across the land now, moving gently over fields and rooftops and narrow village paths. The Nile reflects soft bands of gold beneath the waking sky. Thin mist still rests in a few places above the water, fading little by little as warmth returns to the earth. The world feels fresh for a short while. This early hour belongs to movement before the heat arrives. Sandals press against cool ground. Workers pass along familiar roads carrying baskets and tools that have become extensions of their hands after many years of use. Their footsteps rise and fade along dusty paths. Children move among them. Small figures beside larger ones. Still growing. Still learning. Still waking fully into another day. The young boy walks beside his father once more. His eyes are clearer now. Sleep has left him little by little during the walk from home. Around him, morning unfolds in quiet routines that seem almost unchanged from yesterday and from many days before that. Ancient life often moved in circles rather than straight lines. Morning followed night. Planting followed flooding. Harvest followed waiting. Children grew inside these rhythms. The world around them repeated itself gently, like waves touching a shore. Near the edge of the village, workers gather beside fields where rich dark soil stretches beneath the rising sun. The Nile had given this land its gift once again. Beyond these green places, dry earth waits beneath desert skies. The contrast feels quiet but powerful. Life standing beside stillness. Green standing beside sand. The boy kneels beside his father and presses fingers into the soil. The earth feels cool beneath the surface. Soft. Damp. Alive. He watches carefully as seeds are handled with practiced movements. Hands reach. Hands place. Hands cover. Simple actions. Very old actions. Children watched these movements thousands of times. At first they only watched. Then they helped a little. Then they carried baskets. Then one day they noticed their own hands moving confidently without needing guidance. Growing up often happened like dawn itself. So slowly that no one saw the exact moment when darkness became light. Nearby, another child guides birds away from young crops. Small arms wave through the air. Feet move through rows of plants. The task is simple. But simple work can still feel long. The sun rises higher. Warmth begins returning. Morning coolness starts slipping away. Children notice this before they think about it. Their bodies know. Skin feels warmer. Air feels heavier. The day quietly changes shape. Not far away, a young girl sits beside her mother outside their home. Large jars stand nearby. Grain waits beside smooth stones worn by years of use. She reaches forward and helps separate small pieces from larger ones. Tiny motions. Steady motions. Patient motions. Her mother works without rushing. Children often learn patience by watching adults. There were few reasons to hurry. Bread could not be hurried. Crops could not be hurried. Rivers rose and fell in their own time. Days moved as they wished. The little girl watches her mother's hands. They move with calm certainty. No wasted movement. No unnecessary effort. Just years of practice resting quietly inside ordinary actions. One day her own hands will move the same way. Perhaps she does not think about this. Perhaps she simply enjoys sitting close beside someone familiar while morning sunlight warms the ground around them. Children carried tiredness often. But they carried comfort too. The comfort of familiar voices. The comfort of shared work. The comfort of knowing where each day would lead. Farther along the road, merchants begin arranging goods beneath simple coverings that provide small pieces of shade. Baskets are placed carefully. Bundles are opened. Voices rise softly as people arrive. Children wander near these places whenever they can. Markets carried endless small wonders. Baskets woven in different patterns. Clay pots of different shapes. Fish laid beside reeds. Bright fruits resting in neat rows. Strange smells drifting through warm air. To young eyes, the world could still feel large and full of quiet discoveries. A small boy pauses to watch a craftsman shaping wood. The man's hands move slowly. Wood curls away in thin pieces. Shavings fall softly onto the ground. The boy watches every movement. Watching remains important. Watching teaches. Watching becomes understanding. The sun continues climbing. Shadows shorten little by little. Morning moves toward midday once more. Bird sounds change. Wind becomes softer. Warm air settles around buildings and fields. Workers wipe sweat from their foreheads. Children feel small aches in arms and legs beginning to return. The body remembers yesterday's labor. And the day before that. Growing up in ancient Egypt meant discovering that strength and weariness often lived together. A child could feel tired and strong at the same time. Feet could ache and still keep walking. Hands could feel sore and still continue working. The lesson of endurance rarely arrived all at once. It came quietly. One morning beneath the sun. One basket carried home. One long walk beside the river. One ordinary day becoming another ordinary day. Near the Nile, fishermen stand beside calm water preparing for another journey. The river glows beneath the sunlight now. Gentle ripples move toward shore. A young child watches the boats with sleepy eyes. Perhaps he imagines himself there one day. Older. Taller. Stronger. Standing beside the water before sunrise. Pulling nets from the river with practiced hands. Children often looked ahead quietly like this. Not with grand dreams. Not with thoughts of greatness. Simply with the understanding that tomorrow slowly becomes next year. And next year slowly becomes a lifetime. The warm wind moves through reeds. Water touches the shore. The sun climbs steadily higher. And across the ancient world, another long lesson in endurance continues beneath the sky. The sun climbs higher still, and the soft ease of early morning slowly gives way to the long steady feeling of the day unfolding. Light rests across the fields now without interruption. Mud brick walls shine beneath the sun. Dusty roads appear pale and bright beneath countless footsteps. The air becomes quieter. Not silent. Just slower. Even movement seems to change beneath growing heat. Workers continue their labor with calm familiarity. Hands lift baskets. Feet move through rows of crops. Water jars pass from one person to another. Life keeps moving, but with measured pace, as if the land itself is asking everyone to save strength for the long hours ahead. Children feel this change too. A young boy walks beside older workers carrying a small bundle of reeds tied together with rough cord. In the cool morning, the bundle had felt light enough. Now, beneath the sun that has climbed steadily into the sky, his arms feel heavier. Not suddenly. Very slowly. The body often notices tiredness this way. Little by little. Step after step. He shifts the bundle from one arm to the other. Then back again. Dust rises around his ankles as he walks. Ahead, the village appears through warm shimmering air. The world almost seems softer in the distance, where heat blurs edges and turns sharp lines into gentle waves. The boy blinks slowly. He can hear voices nearby. Someone speaking to animals. Someone calling across a field. Someone laughing softly for a brief moment. The sounds drip through the warm air and then fade away again. Children often spent many hours simply near adults while work continued around them. Listening. Watching. Learning. No formal lesson announced itself. No one gathered children beneath a tree and explained life carefully from beginning to end. Instead, lessons lived inside ordinary moments. Inside footsteps. Inside waiting. Inside work repeated day after day. Nearby, a young girl sits beneath a narrow strip of shade beside her mother. Her hands move through small tasks that match her size and strength. Tiny pieces of grain pass through careful fingers. Her mother says a few words. The girl nods. Then both return to quiet work. Conversation itself often felt different in places like these. There was speaking, certainly. Stories. Instructions. Songs sometimes carried through the evening air. But much of life unfolded without many words at all. People worked beside one another. Families sat together. Children watched. Hands spoke their own language. A father showing his son how to tie rope. A mother showing her daughter how dough should feel beneath gentle pressure. An older brother handing tools to younger hands. The world moved through gestures and routines that became familiar over many years. The heat continues gathering. The sun now rests high overhead. Shadows grow small beneath people and walls. Animals search for cooler places. Goats settle beside shaded corners. Dogs curl against mud brick walls where a little relief can still be found. Birds move more slowly now. Even the breeze feels warm. A fisherman stands beside the Nile with one foot resting inside a small boat. He adjusts a net while his young son watches from the shore. The boy squints toward the river. Sunlight dances across the water. Tiny flashes appear and disappear. He listens to the soft sound of ripples touching reeds. The river never rushes. It simply continues. Children learn something from the Nile too. Patience. Steady movement. Quiet endurance. The river never hurried toward tomorrow. It traveled at its own pace. Always moving. Always returning. The boy kneels and touches the edge of the water. Coolness brushes against his fingertips. For a moment he smiles. Small moments of comfort matter deeply during long days. The feeling of cool water. A breeze moving across sweaty skin. Shade beneath a tree. Fresh bread at evening. Ancient life often asked much from people. But it also offered these small gentle gifts. And children noticed them. Perhaps not in words. Perhaps only in feeling. Far away, beyond fields and homes and workshops, the desert rests beneath endless sunlight. Sand stretches toward distant horizons where earth and sky seem to meet quietly. Warm wind travels across open land and eventually reaches villages beside the Nile. It carries dust. It carries heat. It carries the scent of dry earth. The people living here knew these winds well. Children grew up knowing them too. They knew how dust felt against skin. How warm air moved through narrow streets. How sunlight changed colors across walls during different hours of the day. The land itself became part of memory. Part of growing. Part of becoming. Hours pass gently. The long afternoon waits ahead. And beneath the ancient sky, children continue walking beside adults, learning without realizing how deeply the world around them is shaping them, one ordinary day at a time. The afternoon settles slowly across the land, arriving not as a sudden change but as a gentle weight that drifts over fields and roads and rooftops. The sun remains high above the Nile, and warm light spreads across everything it touches. Stone walls hold heat. Dusty paths seem to glow beneath the sky. The day feels older now. Morning energy has faded into something quieter. Bodies notice it. Feet notice it. Shoulders notice it. Children notice it most of all. A young boy walks beside a line of workers carrying baskets toward a storage place near the fields. The basket in his hands is not large. An older worker carries far more weight than he does. Still, his arms feel tired. Not because he is weak. Because he is growing. Because small muscles have already worked for many hours beneath the sun. He adjusts his grip and keeps walking. Ahead of him, sandals leave soft marks in the earth. One set of footprints follows another. Many feet have traveled this road through many years. Fathers. Mothers. Brothers. Sisters. Children who grew older. Children who one day walked these same paths carrying larger baskets. Ancient roads remembered many lives. Dust rose beneath generations of footsteps and then settled quietly once more. The boy watches his father's back as they walk. There is comfort in familiar shapes. Comfort in familiar movements. Children often watched the adults around them closely. Not because they were told to. Because the world ahead existed inside those people. A father lifting tools. A mother kneading dough. An older brother carrying water. These were quiet pictures of the future. Not distant futures. Only tomorrow slowly arriving. Nearby, in a workshop where sunlight enters through a narrow opening, a child sits close beside a craftsman shaping clay. The room feels warm. Dust and soft pieces of earth rest across the floor. The scent of wet clay mixes with the smell of warm air and tired bodies. Hands move steadily. Pressing. Turning. Shaping. The wheel turns gently. Round and round. Round and round. The child watches without speaking. Eyes follow every movement. The craftsman says little. There is no hurry. No need for many explanations. Learning often happened this way. Watching first. Helping later. Understanding after many quiet days. Outside, the afternoon air feels heavy now. The warmth seems to rest against skin without moving away. People walk more slowly. Animals rest in patches of shade. Birds disappear into trees and reeds. Even sounds seem softer. A little girl sits beside her grandmother near the doorway of their home. They work with woven reeds spread across their laps. The grandmother's hands move with gentle certainty. Years live inside those hands. Years of carrying. Years of cooking. Years of washing and weaving and preparing food and caring for family. The little girl's fingers move more slowly. Sometimes the reeds slip. Sometimes the pattern changes unexpectedly. She pauses. Tries again. Pauses again. Her grandmother smiles softly. Not because perfection matters. Because learning takes time. Ancient childhood was filled with waiting. Waiting to become stronger. Waiting to become taller. Waiting for seasons to change. Waiting for crops to grow. Waiting for tomorrow. Children learned that many things arrived only through patience. Far away, near the Nile, fishermen rest briefly beneath shade beside their boats. The river continues its endless movement beside them. Water touches wood. Wood touches shore. A breeze travels over the river and reaches tired faces. Eyes close for a moment. Just a moment. Children rest nearby too. One young boy leans against bundled nets and watches sunlight moving across the water. His eyelids feel heavy. Not from sadness. Not from boredom. From simple tiredness. From a day filled with movement. The body of a child often carried a quiet rhythm in places like this. Wake before sunrise. Walk. Carry. Watch. Help. Rest. Then begin again. Again and again. Slowly childhood itself became shaped by these repeated days. Like clay beneath careful hands. Like stone beneath years of wind. The afternoon begins changing almost without anyone noticing. Shadows that had nearly disappeared now slowly begin returning. At first they seem small. Thin lines beside walls. Dark places beneath baskets. Then little by little they grow longer. People notice this. Children notice it too. Because shadows whisper something gentle. The hottest hours are beginning to pass. Evening is somewhere ahead. Not close yet. But coming. And for tired feet and tired hands, that thought feels soft and comforting. Warm wind moves through the village. Dust rises briefly and settles again. The Nile continues flowing beneath the sunlight. And another quiet lesson in endurance carries on beneath the ancient sky. The afternoon slowly leans toward evening now, and the long bright light over ancient Egypt begins changing almost too gently to notice. The sun still rests above the land, but its sharpness has softened. The world seems to breathe more easily. Across the fields near the Nile, workers lift their heads from their tasks and feel the small change in the air. Not coolness yet. Not quite. Only a promise of it. A young boy stands near a water channel running between rows of crops. Earlier in the day, the sunlight had pressed heavily against his shoulders and back. His skin had felt warm. His eyes had narrowed beneath the brightness. But now a breeze moves softly across the field. Only for a few moments. Still, he notices. Everyone notices. He closes his eyes briefly as the moving air touches his face. Simple comfort often arrived quietly here. No grand moment announced itself. No voice declared that relief had arrived. It was simply a breeze. A patch of shade. A drink of water. A few moments sitting beside someone familiar. Small things became important during long days. Nearby, a group of workers pauses for a short rest beneath the shadow of trees near the edge of a field. Baskets rest beside them. Tools lie on the ground. Hands covered with dust and earth settle quietly across knees. Children sit among them. A little girl stretches her legs out before her and brushes dust from her sandals. Her feet are tired. Very tired. Children walked often. They walked beside parents to fields. Walked beside siblings to the river. Walked through village roads carrying small tasks from one place to another. Day after day their feet learned these roads. They learned every turn and every stone and every patch of shade. Over time, the roads themselves became part of childhood. The girl looks toward the distance where the Nile catches sunlight. The water appears almost silver now. Small boats drift quietly. Birds move above the reeds. She watches without speaking. Children often spent long moments simply observing the world around them. The ancient world unfolded slowly enough for noticing. The shape of clouds. The movement of water. The sound of sandals on dry ground. The smell of bread beginning to bake somewhere beyond the fields. Ah, bread. Again the scent travels through warm air. It slips between homes and across narrow roads and through open spaces between buildings. Someone nearby has already begun preparing for evening meals. Warm grain and smoke drift gently through the village. Children knew this smell deeply. Morning carried one feeling. Bread at evening carried another. Even before seeing home, many children probably knew they were close simply because the air itself had changed. Nearby, inside a workshop, sunlight enters through a small opening and falls across wooden benches and scattered tools. The room glows softly beneath late afternoon light. A young child helps sweep dust and pieces of reed from the floor. Small movements. Steady movements. The work itself is simple. But much of childhood here lived inside simple things. No task was too small to matter. No contribution disappeared completely. Children learned that even small hands could help shape a day. Outside, merchants begin gathering some of their goods. The busiest hours have already passed. Voices grow softer. Movements slow. People carry baskets home. Animals begin moving back toward familiar places. The village gradually changes its rhythm once again. Ancient days moved almost like breathing. Morning inhaled. Evening exhaled. Work rose and then settled. Movement gathered and then became still. And children grew inside these rhythms without needing anyone to explain them. Near the riverbank, fishermen pull their boats closer to shore. Wood scrapes softly against wet earth. Hands lift ropes. Nets are gathered carefully. A small boy stands nearby watching his father. His eyes follow every movement. Looping rope. Folding netting. Checking knots. Hands that have repeated the same work countless times move almost without thought. The boy tries copying the motions with a loose piece of rope resting in his own lap. His fingers hesitate. The knot slips apart. He tries again. More slowly this time. Children learn through many small failures. A knot untied. A basket dropped. Water spilled. Grain scattered. No trumpet announced these moments. They simply became part of learning. Part of growing. Part of the long lesson itself. The sunlight shifts lower. Long shadows begin stretching across roads and fields. Dust glows softly in the evening light. Warm air moves gently between mud brick homes. People feel their bodies becoming lighter now, not because work has ended, but because they know night is slowly walking toward them. And beneath the endless sky beside the Nile, children continue their quiet journey toward adulthood, one ordinary evening at a time. The evening continues its slow arrival across the land, and the sky above ancient Egypt begins changing in gentle layers of color. Gold rests near the horizon while soft shades of orange spread quietly across the heavens. The Nile gathers these colors and carries them along its moving surface, turning water into ribbons of light. The day has become softer now. People feel it in their muscles. They feel it in their breathing. They feel it in the simple way shoulders begin relaxing after long hours of labor. Children feel it too. A young boy walks toward home beside his father, and the road beneath his sandals feels familiar after so many journeys. Dust rises around their feet and then settles quietly behind them. The basket he carried earlier now hangs empty at his side. Empty baskets often felt lighter than they truly were. Perhaps because they meant work was ending. Perhaps because tired minds noticed hope as much as tired bodies did. Along the road other families are walking too. Workers return from fields. Builders return from dusty work sites. Fishermen return from the river. Servants return from long hours of helping others. Children walk among them, moving with slower steps now. No one rushes. The evening itself seems to ask everyone to slow down. Warm wind brushes gently across faces. Voices drip through the air. Some people speak quietly. Some simply walk beside one another without words. Silence shared with familiar people often carried its own comfort. Ahead, the village begins filling with evening life. Smoke rises from cooking fires. Doors stand open. Clay ovens breathe warmth into the cooling air. The smell of bread grows stronger now. Bread baking. Grain warming. Smoke rising softly into the sky. Children recognize these scents immediately. A little girl reaches home carrying a small bundle of reeds beneath one arm. Her hands feel tired. Dust rests across her sandals and along the edge of her clothing. She places the bundle down and sits beside the doorway for a moment. Just a moment. She stretches her fingers. Then her feet. Then her shoulders. Children rarely escape tiredness here. Growing bodies worked hard. Days asked much from them. But rest also waited patiently at the end of each long journey. Nearby her mother kneels beside a low oven. Warm light from the fire flickers softly against mud brick walls. The girl watches the bread slowly baking. Watching food being prepared had been part of life since her earliest memories. Hands shaping dough. Fires glowing. Smoke rising. Simple things repeated over countless evenings. Ancient childhood often felt like living inside familiar rhythms that never hurried. Near another home, a young boy sits beside his grandfather beneath the open sky. The old man says little. His hands rest quietly on his knees. Years have shaped those hands. Years of labor. Years of carrying and building and planting and lifting. The boy looks at them for a moment. Children often watched older people with quiet curiosity. They noticed wrinkles. Gray hair. Slow movements. Perhaps they wondered about the many days hidden inside another person's life. Perhaps they simply enjoyed sitting nearby. The evening air feels softer now. Birds travel overhead in small groups before disappearing toward places of rest. Animals settle beside walls and shaded spaces. The village slowly begins becoming quieter. Far away, fishermen tie boats securely along the riverbank. Wood shifts gently against water. Ropes pull tight. Nets rest folded for tomorrow. Tomorrow. Tomorrow waits again. Children understood tomorrow differently than adults perhaps. Adults carried worries and plans and responsibilities. Children often carried something simpler. They carried expectation. Because tomorrow would bring familiar things. Morning light. Dusty roads. Work waiting beside the Nile. Voices of family. The smell of bread. The feeling of cool air before sunrise. Life moved in circles gentle enough to trust. Above the village, the sky continues darkening. The first stars begin appearing one by one. A young child notices them and lifts tired eyes upward. The stars arrive quietly. No sound. No movement visible to the eye. Only tiny points of light resting above the world. Ancient people knew these skies deeply. Night belonged to stars in a way difficult to imagine. Without bright lights scattered across the land, the heavens stretched endlessly above villages and rivers and fields. Children grew beneath these skies. They fell asleep beneath them. They woke beneath them. They learned their shapes and movements little by little. The little child keeps watching for a moment. Another star appears. Then another. Then another. Around him, evening settles more deeply across the village. Voices grow quieter. Warmth slowly leaves the earth. And another day, filled with small lessons and quiet endurance, begins folding itself gently into night. Night settles more fully over the village now, and darkness spreads softly across fields and roads beside the Nile. The last colors of evening slowly fade from the horizon. Gold disappears into blue, and blue gradually deepens into the quiet darkness that ancient people knew so well. Above, the stars become clearer. Many more appear now. Thousands of small lights rest across the sky, calm and steady, watching silently over the sleeping land. The Nile continues moving beneath them. Always moving. Always patient. Water touches the shore in soft rhythms. Reeds bend gently beside the riverbank. Somewhere far away, a boat tied to a wooden post shifts quietly against the current. Inside the village, most of the day has finally become still. Cooking fires have grown smaller. Voices drift from homes and then slowly disappear. Animals settle into familiar places for the night. The roads that carried so many footsteps beneath the sun now rest quietly beneath starlight. Inside one mud brick home, a family prepares for sleep. A young boy sits near the doorway with heavy eyes. Earlier in the day he walked long dusty roads. He carried reeds and baskets. He stood beneath sunlight and watched the endless work of ordinary life unfold around him. Now his body feels soft and heavy. Not painful. Only tired. The kind of tiredness that arrives honestly after a long day. Nearby, his mother folds away simple tools used during the day. His father stretches tired shoulders. A sister leans sleepily against the wall. The room glows with faint light from a small flame nearby. Its soft flickering movement paints gentle shadows across the walls. Children knew this kind of light well. Before sleep there were often small quiet moments like these. Moments without work. Moments without movement. Moments where nobody needed anything carried or lifted or gathered. The boy watches the flame. Its light dances slowly. His eyes follow it for a while. Then his thoughts begin drifting. Children living beside the Nile probably carried simple thoughts into sleep. Thoughts of tomorrow's tasks. Thoughts of friends seen during the day. Thoughts of boats on the river. Thoughts of bread baking. Thoughts of animals wandering village roads. Perhaps thoughts came and disappeared like clouds crossing the sky. Or perhaps tiredness simply carried everything away. Outside, a warm breeze moves gently between homes. The heat of the day is leaving the earth now. Stone releases warmth slowly into the night air. People sleeping on rooftops settle beneath blankets and woven mats. Many families rested there during warm nights where moving air felt cooler and easier to breathe. A little girl lies beside her family beneath the stars. Her eyes remain open for a few moments. Above her stretches an endless sky. Children often looked upward before sleep arrived. The stars felt close somehow. Not close enough to touch, but close enough to know. She watches quietly. A shooting star would have surprised her. A bright moon might hold her attention. But tonight the sky remains calm. Still. Peaceful. Beside her, someone is already asleep. Slow breathing rises and falls gently. Someone shifts beneath a blanket. Someone sighs quietly. Small sounds of sleeping life surround her. She closes her eyes. Tomorrow morning the village will wake again. Before sunrise someone will rise quietly. Bread ovens will warm. Sandals will touch cool earth. Water jars will be lifted. The Nile will continue its endless journey. And children will wake and step once more into the long lesson that life has been teaching them since their earliest memories. Not through grand speeches. Not through written words. But through ordinary days. Through repetition. Through patient routines. Through dusty roads beneath warm skies. Night grows deeper. The village becomes quieter still. The river continues moving through darkness. And beneath the stars of ancient Egypt, tired children drift gently into sleep, while another silent night watches over the ancient world. The night moves quietly onward, and time passes so gently that no one sleeping beneath the stars notices it. The village rests in deep stillness now. The day's footsteps have faded. The sounds of labor have disappeared into darkness. Only small sounds remain. Soft breathing. The whisper of wind. Water touching the edge of the Nile. Far away, reeds sway gently in the night air. The earth itself seems to rest. A young boy sleeps on a rooftop beside his family. One arm lies beneath his head. A thin woven blanket rises and falls with each slow breath. The warmth held inside the stone beneath him has nearly faded now. The air feels cooler. Comfortable. Peaceful. During the day, the world had asked many things from him. Walk here. Carry this. Watch carefully. Help with that. Stand beneath the sun. Keep moving. Keep learning. Keep growing. But night asks for nothing. Night simply allows tired bodies to become still. Hours drift by. The moon slowly crosses the sky above the Nile. Its pale light touches rooftops and roads and fields waiting quietly in darkness. Mud brick walls glow faintly beneath silver light. Ancient people knew darkness differently. Night was not pushed away by bright lamps stretching far into the distance. Darkness arrived fully. Gently. Completely. Children grew up knowing these nights. They knew how stars looked above quiet villages. They knew the sounds carried by evening wind. They knew the feeling of lying beneath endless sky while sleep slowly approached. Somewhere nearby, a dog lifts its head briefly before settling again. A boat tied near the riverbank shifts softly against wood. Then silence returns. Eventually the eastern edge of the sky begins changing once more. Not quickly. Very slowly. Black softens into deep blue. The stars nearest the horizon begin fading. Morning always returns this way. Patiently. As if the world never wishes to wake anyone too suddenly. Inside homes and upon rooftops, people continue sleeping. For a little longer. For a few more precious moments. Children especially hold tightly to these last pieces of rest. Because childhood beside the Nile was filled with movement. Filled with learning. Filled with long days. Sleep felt valuable. Sleep felt earned. A little girl turns beneath her blanket and opens her eyes halfway. She blinks slowly. For a moment she does not move. Around her, everyone else remains asleep. The sky above still carries stars. But fewer now. Morning stands somewhere beyond the horizon waiting quietly. She closes her eyes again. Only for a moment. Only for one more small piece of sleep. Nearby, a breeze moves across rooftops and carries with it the scent of damp river air. Freshness. Coolness. The promise of another beginning. Soon someone will wake. Soon footsteps will return. Soon ovens will warm and grain will be gathered and sandals will touch dusty roads once again. The world will begin its familiar rhythm. Children will rise and return to their small responsibilities. Their hands will help. Their feet will walk. Their eyes will watch. And little by little, another day will continue shaping them. Because growing up here was rarely a single moment. There was no doorway between being a child and being grown. No single morning arrived with new understanding waiting outside. Instead, childhood slowly flowed forward like the Nile itself. Quietly. Steadily. Day after day. Season after season. One ordinary sunrise at a time. The first birds begin singing now. Soft sounds at first. Small sounds. Gentle sounds. The world is preparing to wake again. And beneath the fading stars of ancient Egypt, children still sleep for a few moments more, resting before another long lesson in endurance begins with the rising sun. The first light of morning slowly reaches across the land once again. It arrives gently over the Nile, touching the river before touching the roads, the homes, and the waiting fields beyond the village. The sky changes little by little, deep blue becoming gray, and gray slowly warming into pale gold. The world begins waking softly. Birds move through reeds near the water. Small wings cut quietly through cool air. Somewhere a donkey shifts and shakes away sleep. A door opens. Then another. Morning returns in tiny sounds. Inside a mud brick home, a young boy opens his eyes and stares upward for a moment. Sleep still lingers around him like a thin blanket that does not wish to leave. His body feels heavy. Yesterday still lives inside his muscles. His legs remember long walks. His shoulders remember carrying small burdens. His hands remember work. Children often woke this way. Not refreshed in the way stories sometimes imagine. Not bursting with energy. Simply waking. Slowly leaving sleep behind. He sits up and rubs his eyes. Nearby, his family begins moving through familiar motions. No one rushes. There is no need. Morning has its own rhythm. Outside, the coolness of night still rests over the village. It will not stay long. Soon sunlight will spread warmth across the land once again. But for now, the air feels soft and pleasant. The boy steps outside. His sandals touch cool ground. He pauses for a moment. Many children probably paused sometimes during these early hours without even realizing it. Morning before the heat carried a quiet beauty. The village looked different then. Gentler. Calmer. Shadows stretched long across roads. Smoke from early fires rose slowly into still air. The Nile reflected pale morning light. Everything seemed to breathe quietly. Nearby, a woman kneels beside an oven preparing bread for the day ahead. Hands move with familiar certainty. Pressing. Shaping. Turning. Years of repetition live inside simple motions. A little girl sits nearby watching carefully. Soon she begins helping. Small hands press gently into dough. Not perfectly. Not smoothly. But carefully. Children learned by joining the work around them little by little. No one expected perfect hands. Only willing hands. The smell of bread slowly fills the air. Warm grain. Smoke. Earth. Comfort. Across the village, other children are beginning their mornings too. A young boy carries a small clay jar toward the river. A girl helps gather reeds near the edge of a field. Another child follows older brothers through narrow roads, still holding traces of cool night air. Everywhere small feet move beside larger feet. Ancient childhood often unfolded this way. Not separately from adult life. Not hidden away from work and routine. Children lived inside the movement of daily life from the beginning. They watched. They listened. They helped. And little by little they became part of the world surrounding them. Near the Nile, fishermen already stand beside their boats. The river glows beneath early sunlight now. Mist drifts softly over the surface in places where cool air still lingers. Wood creaks gently. Ropes tighten. Hands prepare nets. A young child watches from nearby. His eyes follow every motion. Watching again. Always watching. Children carried endless curiosity even inside ordinary routines. Because ordinary life itself contained countless small things to notice. The shape of a knot. The sound of water against wood. The smell of wet reeds. The feeling of morning air against tired skin. Farther away, farmers begin moving toward fields once more. The same roads. The same tools. The same work waiting beneath the sky. And yet no day ever felt exactly the same. Because children changed. Even when they did not notice it. A little more strength today. A little more understanding tomorrow. A little more endurance next season. Growing happened quietly. Almost invisibly. Like the slow arrival of dawn. The sun rises a little higher now. Golden light stretches farther across the land. Morning coolness begins its slow retreat. The world prepares itself once again for another long day. And beside the patient waters of the Nile, children step gently forward into the familiar rhythm of life, continuing the quiet journey of becoming who they are meant to be. The morning continues unfolding across the land, and the sun slowly climbs above the horizon with quiet certainty. Its light stretches farther across fields and roads, touching mud brick walls and palm leaves and the smooth surface of the Nile. Cool air still lingers for a little while. But not for long. People know this. Children know it too. The early hours are precious. The earth feels easier beneath the feet then. Breathing feels lighter. Movements come more naturally before the heat gathers its strength for the day ahead. A young boy walks beside his older brother toward the fields. Dust presses softly beneath their sandals. Small stones shift under each step. They have walked this road many times. So many times. The path bends beside reeds near the water and then stretches toward open land where green crops rise from dark soil. The boy notices familiar things along the way. A cat sitting beside a doorway. Birds lifting suddenly from the grass. Smoke rising into the morning sky. A woman carrying a clay jar balanced carefully upon her shoulder. Children often remembered the world through these ordinary pictures. Not through grand events. Not through loud moments. Through small things repeated over and over. The smell of warm bread. The sound of sandals against stone. The feeling of sunlight arriving slowly across the skin. Nearby, another child follows her mother toward the river. The clay jar she carries is small. Small enough for young hands. Still, she grips it carefully. Water always mattered. Children understood that very early. Water meant drinking. Water meant bread. Water meant crops and animals and cooking and life itself. The Nile rested quietly beside everything people did. Its presence touched nearly every hour of the day. As the little girl walks, she watches morning light dancing across the water. Tiny pieces of brightness shimmer and disappear. Shimmer and disappear. She pauses for a moment near the riverbank. The air feels cooler here. Gentle wind travels across the water and touches her face. She closes her eyes for only a second. Simple moments of comfort often hid quietly inside ordinary days. A breeze. Shade. Cool water against tired hands. The world offered these small gifts without announcing them. Farther inside the village, workshops have begun filling with movement. Hands shape clay. Wood is cut and smoothed. Reeds are woven into baskets. Voices rise and fade beneath warm air. Children move through these places carrying tools and supplies or simply watching from nearby corners. Watching remains important. Watching teaches patience. Watching teaches rhythm. Watching teaches how hands move before hands themselves are ready. A young boy stands near a potter shaping wet clay. The spinning wheel turns slowly. Round and round. Round and round. The boy's eyes follow it carefully. The potter presses his hands against the clay with calm movements. The shape changes little by little. What began as a simple piece of earth slowly becomes something useful. A bowl perhaps. A jar. Something that one day will sit inside a home beside bread and water and family. The boy watches quietly. Perhaps he does not realize he is learning. Children often did not realize it. Learning happened around them all day. Not in separate places. Not in separate hours. Learning lived inside ordinary life itself. Outside, the sunlight grows stronger. Long shadows begin shrinking across roads and fields. Workers wipe small beads of sweat from their foreheads. Children feel warmth beginning to settle over shoulders and backs. Morning is changing once again. A little girl sits beside her grandmother near the doorway of their home. They weave reeds together slowly. The grandmother's fingers move easily. Years live inside those hands. Years of repetition. Years of practice. Years of ordinary days stacked gently together. The little girl's fingers move more slowly. Sometimes the reeds slip. Sometimes she pauses. Then she tries again. No one rushes her. Ancient childhood often moved with patience. There was time for learning. Time for watching. Time for becoming stronger. The world itself understood that growing could not be hurried. Just as seeds could not be forced to rise before their season. Just as the Nile moved according to its own rhythm. Just as morning slowly became afternoon. The sun continues climbing. Warm air begins resting more heavily across the land. And children, without fully noticing it, continue their long and quiet lesson in endurance beneath the ancient Egyptian sky. The morning slowly drifts toward midday, and the sunlight over ancient Egypt becomes brighter and fuller across the land. The shadows beside walls and baskets grow smaller now. The coolness that arrived before dawn has nearly disappeared, leaving only warmth settling gently over roads and fields. The day is becoming heavier. Not suddenly. Little by little. The way a river slowly rises. The way sand slowly shifts beneath the wind. Children feel these changes quietly inside their bodies. A young boy kneels beside a field where green shoots rise from rich dark soil. Earlier his movements felt easy. Earlier his steps felt light. Now his arms feel a little slower. His shoulders feel a little warmer. Tiny beads of sweat rest along his forehead. He wipes them away with the back of his hand. Then he keeps helping. Ancient childhood often asked for small acts of persistence. Nothing grand. Nothing dramatic. Simply continuing. Continuing after feet became tired. Continuing after shoulders began to ache. Continuing because everyone around you continued too. Nearby, workers moved through fields with familiar rhythms. Hands lift tools. Hands press earth. Hands guide water where it needs to go. Children watch carefully. Always watching. Always storing away small lessons. A little girl follows her mother along a dusty path leading back toward the village. Their sandals leave soft marks in the earth behind them. The clay jar in her hands feels heavier now than it did earlier. Her fingers tighten around it. She shifts it carefully. Then walks on. The jar itself has not changed. But the morning has grown longer. Her arms have carried it farther. Children learn something early here. Weight changes with time. Even small burdens become different after enough steps. The road ahead stretches quietly beneath sunlight. Warm air rises from the ground in gentle waves. Far away, the Nile glimmers between fields and reeds. The river seems peaceful from a distance. Almost motionless. But the water never truly rests. It keeps moving. Always moving. Children grew beside that endless motion. Perhaps they learned from it without knowing. A river did not rush. A river did not complain. It simply continued. Inside the village, life carries on beneath the growing warmth of the day. The workshops remain busy. The ovens remain warm. Voices drift through open spaces between homes. A young child sits outside beside an older sister weaving reeds together. Small fingers try to copy practiced hands. The reeds bend. Twist. Slip apart. The child pauses. Looks down. Tries again. Learning often looked very quiet. No applause followed success. No audience watched mistakes. There was only repetition. Again. Then again. Then once more. Children lived inside repetition. Morning after morning. Season after season. Hands slowly remembered movements before minds fully understood them. The smell of baking bread travels through the air once more. Warm grain and smoke drift between homes. Somewhere nearby someone laughs softly. Another voice answers. Then quiet returns. Even sound seems slower now. The day itself feels slower. Near the riverbank, fishermen prepare nets while sunlight dances across the water. A young boy sits nearby with his knees pulled close to his chest. His eyes follow the movement of ropes passing through rough hands. Loop. Pull. Tie. Fold. Simple motions. Ancient motions. Movements repeated by countless hands across countless years. The boy studies them carefully. Perhaps one day his own hands will move that way. Perhaps one day he will stand at the river before sunrise with tired eyes and strong shoulders. But for now he only watches. Only learns. Only grows. The warmth deepens. Birds grow quieter. Animals seek patches of shade. Dust rests softly across roads and sandals. And across the ancient world, children continue walking their long path toward adulthood, carrying small burdens beneath the sun while another ordinary day unfolds beside the patient waters of the Nile. The sun rises a little higher still, and midday slowly approaches across the land beside the Nile. Warmth settles over everything now. The mud brick walls of homes hold sunlight across their surfaces. Dusty roads appear pale beneath the bright sky, and the fields shimmer softly in the distance. The earth seems quieter during these hours. Not because work has ended. Because heat changes the feeling of movement itself. People still walk. Hands still work. Voices still rise now and then. but everything carries a slower rhythm. A young boy stands beside a water channel near the fields and watches the surface moving gently past him. Small leaves drift along the current. Sunlight dances across the water in shifting patterns. For a few moments he simply watches. Children often paused this way. Not because they had nothing to do. Because the world itself sometimes asked to be noticed. He kneels slowly and touches the water. Coolness brushes across his fingers. The feeling spreads gently through his hand. He leaves his fingers there a little longer. The day has grown warm enough now that even small moments like this feel precious. Nearby, older workers continue moving through the fields. Their shadows lie close beneath them. Sweat rests across foreheads and arms. The boy watches his father straighten slowly and place a hand against his lower back for a moment. Then the hand falls away. Then the work continues. Children noticed things like this. They noticed tired shoulders. They noticed heavy steps at the end of long days. They noticed quiet sighs and stretched muscles and hands resting briefly before lifting another burden. Growing up meant watching adulthood from nearby. Not from a distance. Not as some mysterious thing hidden far ahead. Children saw it every day. They saw its effort. Its routines. Its tiredness. And its quiet strength. Farther away inside the village, a little girl helps prepare grain beside her mother. Warm air drifts through the doorway of their home. Tiny pieces of grain move beneath careful fingers. Outside, sunlight presses against the earth. Inside, shadows create small places of relief. The girl glances toward the doorway where brightness spills across the ground. Dust moves through beams of sunlight. Tiny floating pieces rising and falling almost invisibly. She watches them for a moment. Children often notice small things adults no longer pause to see. Light moving across walls. An insect resting on a stone. Clouds drifting slowly overhead. The world offered endless quiet details. And childhood still had space for noticing them. Her mother continues working beside her. Hands move steadily. Calmly. Years of repetition live in those motions now. The little girl tries copying them. Not perfectly. Not quickly. But carefully. Ancient childhood rarely demanded instant skill. There was understanding that hands needed time. Bodies needed time. Strength needed time. The Nile itself taught this lesson. Its waters rose and fell in seasons. Crops appeared in their own time. Nothing important hurried. Near the riverbank, fishermen sit beneath narrow patches of shade while preparing their nets. Boats rest quietly beside them, rocking gently where water meets wood. A young child sits nearby with eyes growing heavy. Not sleepy enough to sleep. Just tired enough to become quiet. The sounds around him feel soft now. Water moving. Wind touching reeds. Voices drifting from nearby boats. He leans against bundled nets and watches sunlight resting on the river. Children carried a particular kind of tiredness in places like this. Not the tiredness of staying awake too long. Not the tiredness of sickness. A deeper tiredness. The kind built slowly from ordinary days. From walking. From helping. From growing. The kind of tiredness that arrived honestly. The kind that waited patiently each evening before sleep. The sun continues climbing. Warmth deepens across fields and roads. Birds settle into quieter places. The village breathes beneath the weight of the day. And children continue moving gently through their ordinary world, taking one more step along the long and quiet lesson of endurance. Midday finally settles across the land, and the sun now rests high above ancient Egypt. Its light falls almost straight down over fields and roads and village walls. The shadows that stretched so long during the morning have nearly disappeared. Everything beneath the sky feels warm. Very warm. The earth itself seems to hold its breath. Across the fields beside the Nile, workers continue moving steadily through their tasks. They know this hour well. They have felt this heat many times before. Children know it too. A young boy sits beneath the narrow shade of a tree near the edge of a field. The shade is not large. It reaches only a small patch of ground where tired bodies can rest for a little while. Still, even a small shadow can feel generous on a day like this. He stretches his legs out before him. Dust rests across his sandals. His hands are marked with traces of earth gathered through the morning. Nearby, older workers sit quietly too. No one speaks much. Heat often invited silence. Voices seemed softer beneath the midday sun. People drank water slowly. Hands wiped sweat from foreheads. Eyes narrowed against the brightness. The boy lifts a clay cup carefully and drinks. Cool water touches dry lips. Then coolness moves slowly down through his throat. Simple things felt important here. Very important. Water after long work. Shade after standing beneath the sun. Rest after movement. Children learn the value of these things early. Because comfort often arrived in small pieces. Not large pieces. Not endless pieces. Only enough. And enough carried its own quiet beauty. Near the village, a little girl sits beside her mother near the doorway of their home. The inside of the house feels cooler than the open road outside. Thick mud brick walls help keep some of the heat away. She leans against the wall for a moment. Her eyelids feel heavy. Warm afternoons often placed a gentle weight over tired eyes. The world itself seemed to move more slowly. Even sounds drifted lazily through the air. Far away someone calls to animals. A hammer strikes wood inside a workshop. A bird cries once before flying toward the river. Then stillness returns again. The little girl watches sunlight resting on the floor near the doorway. Bright shapes move slowly as the sun continues its journey across the sky. She watches dust floating through the light. Upward. Downward. Turning gently in warm air. Children often had moments like these. Moments of quiet observation. Moments where the world slowed enough to notice small things. No lesson was spoken. No one explained that these moments mattered. But perhaps they stayed in memory anyway. The feeling of warmth against stone. The shape of light across a floor. The sound of distant water. Near the Nile, fishermen prepare for later hours beside their boats. For now many rest. Wooden boats sit partly on shore. Nets lie folded. Ropes curl beside feet resting in patches of shade. A young child sits beside his father and leans against bundled reeds. He watches the river. The Nile keeps moving. Always moving. It does not pause for heat. It does not pause for tiredness. Its waters continue toward distant places beyond the horizon. Children grew beside this steady rhythm every day. Perhaps the river quietly taught endurance too. Not through words. Not through instruction. Only through its presence. Continue. 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 The world seemed to whisper those lessons everywhere. In water flowing downstream. In bread prepared each morning. In fields planted season after season. In footsteps returning home every evening. The afternoon still waits ahead. Long hours still rest beneath the sun. But for now, People sit quietly beneath patches of shade, and children close tired eyes for a few moments while warm wind moves gently across the ancient world. The midday hours drift forward slowly, almost as if time itself has become sleepy beneath the warm Egyptian sun. Heat rests over the land like a soft heavy blanket. The roads seem quieter now. The fields shimmer in the distance where warm air rises gently from the earth. Nothing rushes. Nothing hurries. Even the wind seems content to move slowly today. Beneath a narrow strip of shade near the fields, a young boy opens his eyes after resting for a short while. He had not fully slept. Children often rested this way during warm hours, floating somewhere between waking and dreaming. He sits quietly for a moment. The world around him feels softer after resting. Sounds return gradually. The distant call of birds. The quiet voices of workers nearby. The soft movement of water flowing through channels that carry life into the fields. He blinks toward the sunlight. For a moment he watches small insects moving above the crops. They drift through warm air almost lazily, rising and falling in tiny patterns. Children watched small things often. There was time for noticing. Time for quiet curiosity. Time to stare at ripples spreading across water or shadows moving across walls. Ancient life carried work and tiredness, certainly. But it also carried stillness. The kind of stillness where the world itself seemed willing to sit quietly beside you. Nearby, workers begin standing once more. Hands rest briefly on knees. Shoulders stretch. Feet press into dusty ground again. The day has not finished speaking. There is still work waiting. The boy rises too. His legs feel a little stiff at first. Then they remember movement again. Children learn this feeling early. Resting. Standing. Continuing. Bodies slowly adjusting to the rhythm of long days. Not far away, a little girl follows her older sister through narrow village roads carrying a small basket. The basket is light enough. At least at first. The road beneath them winds between homes built from warm mud brick. Small shadows gather beside walls where the sunlight cannot fully reach. Cats rest there. Dogs sleep there. Sometimes children pause there too. The little girl glances toward one of these patches of shade. For a brief moment it looks inviting. Cooler. Quieter. Her feet feel warm from walking. But they continue onward. Step after step. Children often learned endurance through ordinary distances. Not great journeys across deserts. Not grand adventures. Simply walking where life needed them to walk. To the river. To the fields. To neighbors. Back home again. Over time roads became familiar companions. Children knew where stones rested beneath the dust. They knew where shade arrived during certain hours. They knew where breezes sometimes passed between walls. The world slowly became written inside their memory. Farther away, beside the Nile, fishermen begin preparing for the later hours of the day. Hands move through nets carefully. Loop. Pull. Straighten. Fold. A young boy watches beside them. Watching again. Always watching. Children spent years standing near the edges of work before slowly stepping into it. Their world was full of quiet observation. Their eyes gathered lessons little by little. Like filling a basket one small handful at a time. The river glimmers beneath sunlight. Its movement remains gentle and steady. Water touches reeds. Reeds bend softly. Boats rock almost invisibly near the shore. The child watches for a long moment. Perhaps he imagines himself older. Perhaps he imagines nothing at all. Perhaps he simply enjoys looking at the water. Children do not always need reasons for stillness. The world itself can be enough. The afternoon stretches ahead patiently. The heat remains. The dust remains. The work remains. And beneath the endless sky of ancient Egypt, children continue moving through another ordinary day, carrying small responsibilities while growing quietly into the people they will someday become. The afternoon moves onward with unhurried steps, and the sunlight above ancient Egypt slowly begins its long journey toward evening. The heat still rests over the land, but something subtle has begun to change. The air feels different now. Only slightly. Only enough for tired bodies to notice. A small breeze wanders through the fields beside the Nile and brushes against bending reeds. It slips through narrow village roads and passes along mud brick walls that have spent hours holding the warmth of the day. People lift their heads for a moment. Children notice too. Even a gentle breeze can feel like a quiet kindness after many hours beneath the sun. A young boy walks along a dusty path carrying a bundle of reeds beneath one arm. Earlier in the day his steps had felt easy. Now they feel slower. The bundle has not grown heavier. But the day itself has grown heavier. His shoulders understand this. His feet understand this. His legs understand this. Still, he keeps walking. Ancient childhood often moved this way. Not through sudden acts of courage. Not through grand tests of strength. Simply through continuing. Continuing one step farther. Continuing through warmth and weariness. Continuing because the road still stretched ahead. Around him, other workers move toward different tasks. A farmer guides animals slowly along a path. A woman carries jars balanced carefully. Two brothers walk side by side with tools resting across their shoulders. Children walk among them. Always among them. Small shadows beside larger shadows. Growing quietly beneath the same sky. Near the village, a little girl sits beside her grandmother beneath a woven covering that casts soft patterns of shade across the ground. Reeds rest in their laps. Hands continue their patient work. The grandmother's fingers move without hesitation. Years of practice lie there. Years of mornings and evenings. Years of ordinary days. The little girl's fingers still pause now and then. Sometimes she loses the pattern. Sometimes the reeds bend in unexpected ways. She studies them. Tries again. Ancient learning often arrived through repetition rather than instruction. Hands learned before words did. Bodies remembered before minds explained. Nearby, the smell of warm bread drifts through the village once again. The scent moves through open spaces between homes. Smoke rises gently into the air. Children notice it immediately. The smell carries something comforting with it. Not only hunger. Something softer. The feeling of evening coming closer. The feeling of home waiting. The feeling that the longest hours of the day are slowly beginning to loosen their hold. Far away beside the riverbank, fishermen stand beside their boats. The sunlight touching the Nile has changed now. Earlier it had seemed bright and white. Now soft gold begins appearing upon the water. Tiny waves catch the light and release it again. Catch it. Release it. Catch it. Release it. A young child sits nearby with his knees pulled close and watches the river quietly. Children often spent long moments simply watching water. The Nile gave life to nearly everything around them. It fed fields. It fed families. It carried boats and fish and stories from distant places. Its presence lived inside ordinary life every single day. Perhaps the child does not think about any of this. Perhaps he only watches sunlight dancing on moving water. Perhaps that is enough. The afternoon continues changing slowly. Shadows begin growing longer. Birds return to the sky above the fields. Animals stir from resting places. The village itself begins preparing for evening without anyone announcing it. Bodies feel it. Hearts feel it. Children feel it too. Because after long days of carrying and watching and learning and walking, evening always approached with quiet footsteps. And beneath the patient sky above the Nile, another lesson in endurance continues gently toward night. The afternoon slowly begins leaning into evening, and the land beside the Nile takes on a softer feeling. The sunlight remains warm, but its brightness has changed. Harsh white light has become golden now. Long shadows stretch across fields and dusty roads, reaching farther with each passing moment. People notice this without needing to look at the sky. Their bodies know. Their hands know. Children know too. A young boy walks beside his father along a narrow path between fields. Their sandals press gently into dry earth. Earlier in the day the ground had seemed almost too bright beneath the sun. Now the light rests softly over everything. The boy glances down and notices their shadows. His father's shadow stretches long beside him. His own smaller shadow follows too. He watches them for a few moments. Step. 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 The shadows move with them. Children often notice small things during tired hours. When the body grew quieter, the mind sometimes wandered toward simple observations. The shape of footprints in dust. Birds crossing the sky. Light moving across water. Tiny things. Gentle things. The world offered endless details for patient eyes. Nearby, workers gather tools and baskets little by little. The day's labor has not fully ended, but people can feel evening approaching. There is a softness that arrives during this hour. Shoulders lower slightly. Breathing feels easier. Thoughts turn toward home. Toward food. Toward rest. Children feel this especially. A little girl walks with a clay jar held carefully against her side. Earlier the jar had felt manageable. Now her arms ache. Not sharply. Just enough to notice. Enough to make her shift it from one side to the other. She pauses beneath a small patch of shade beside a wall. Only for a moment. Warm air moves gently across her face. She closes her eyes briefly. Ancient childhood carried many pauses like these. Tiny islands of rest hidden inside long days. Moments where tired feet stopped. Moments where hands loosened. Moments where the world seemed willing to wait. Then she opens her eyes and begins walking again. Step after step. Step after step. Near the village, workshops begin changing their rhythm too. Hands continue shaping clay and smoothing wood, but movements feel slower now. Sunlight enters at a different angle. Long beams stretch across floors. Dust floats through the light like tiny drifting stars. A child stands nearby watching a craftsman finish his work. The craftsman's hands move with calm certainty. Years have taught those hands exactly what to do. The child watches every motion. Watching remains important. Watching always remains important. Children gathered pieces of adulthood this way. A movement here. A lesson there. A habit observed during quiet afternoons. Slowly these pieces settled inside them. Far away beside the Nile, fishermen pull ropes and adjust nets while evening light spreads across the river. The water glows softly. Gold and silver drift together across its surface. Birds pass overhead on their journey toward resting places. A young boy sits near the shore and places his hands in the cool mud beside the water. The earth feels different here. Cooler. Softer. He presses his fingers gently into it. Children love touching the world around them. Mud beneath fingertips. Warm stone beneath feet. River water against skin. Ancient life was close to the earth. Very close. Children grew up feeling seasons with their bodies rather than reading about them. They knew warmth and coolness. Dryness and rain. Dust and water. The land itself became part of growing up. The shadows continue stretching farther now. The village slowly prepares itself for evening. The longest hours of the day begin slipping away. And beneath the soft golden light of ancient Egypt, children continue their quiet journey through another ordinary day, learning endurance not through words, but through life itself. Evening settles a little closer now, and the ancient land beside the Nile begins to release the long warmth it gathered beneath the sun. Golden light rests across mud brick walls and along the tops of reeds near the riverbank. Dust hanging in the air catches the light and glows softly before slowly drifting back toward the earth. The day feels older now. Its long hours have begun folding inward. People sense it quietly. Children sense it too. A young boy walks beside a narrow irrigation channel where water moves gently between fields. He has finished helping with small tasks for now, and his steps are slower than they were in the morning. Not unhappy. Only tired. The kind of tiredness that arrives after a full day of ordinary work. He pauses and kneels beside the water. The channel carries cool movement through warm land. Tiny ripples slide past bits of grass and small floating leaves. He reaches out and lets his fingertips touch the surface. Coolness spreads across his skin. He watches the ripples widen. Children often paused for simple things like this. Not because they had forgotten where they were going. Because small moments of comfort felt large after long hours beneath the sky. Nearby, workers begin gathering what remains of the day. Tools are lifted. Baskets are stacked. Bundles are tied. Hands move through familiar endings just as they moved through familiar beginnings each morning. Everything in ancient life carried rhythm. The beginning of bread. The ending of work. The rise of the river. The return of evening. Children grew inside these rhythms until they lived inside them naturally. A little girl walks through the village beside her mother. Their shadows stretch across the road before them, long and thin beneath the lowering sun. She watches her shadow for a while. It moves across stones. Across dust. Across the edges of walls. When she lifts one arm, the shadow lifts too. Children everywhere have probably noticed such things. Small discoveries. Quiet little wonders hidden inside ordinary days. She smiles for only a moment. Then keeps walking. Ahead, cooking fires have begun waking again. Thin streams of smoke rise into the evening air. The scent arrives slowly. Warm bread. Roasting grain. Fresh herbs. The smell moves through narrow roads and between homes. Children know it immediately. The body knows it immediately. Even before seeing home, the smell itself says something gentle. The day is becoming softer now. The day is preparing to rest. Near the workshops, a child sits beside an older brother who carefully wraps tools and places them away for tomorrow. The younger child watches every movement. Fold the cloth. Place the tool. Lift the basket. Simple actions. Repeated actions. Ancient life often taught through repetition rather than explanation. A child saw the same movements again and again until eventually they no longer felt new. One day Hans simply knew what to do. Near the Nile, fishermen begin guiding boats toward the shore. Wood brushes softly against wet earth. Ropes pull tight. Nets settle into quiet piles beside the water. The river glows beneath the evening sky. Its surface no longer shines with the bright white light of midday. Now it carries softer colors. Gold. Orange. Faint pieces of deepening blue. A young boy sits nearby with tired eyes and watches the changing water. He says nothing. There is nothing that needs saying. Sometimes children simply sat and watched the world becoming evening. Birds return home. The air cools little by little. Voices soften. Light changes. Ancient Egypt itself seems to breathe out slowly at the end of the day. And beneath the quiet sky beside the patient Nile, children continue walking through their long lesson in endurance, one sunset at a time. The evening deepens across the land, and the sun slowly lowers toward the distant horizon. Its light stretches across the Nile in long bands of gold that move gently with the water. The bright heat of midday feels farther away now, almost like a memory already drifting behind the day. Warm air still lingers, but it has softened. The earth seems quieter, more relaxed. Across the village, people continue returning home along dusty roads worn smooth by countless footsteps. Sandals brush against the ground with soft sounds. Baskets hang from tired arms. Tools rest across shoulders that have carried them through many seasons. Children walk among them. Small steps beside larger ones. Tired steps. Steady steps. A young boy follows his father through a narrow road between mud brick homes. Dust clings to his ankles. His legs feel heavy now. Every step asks a little more effort than the step before. Yet he continues walking. Children often learned endurance in ways so quiet they may never have noticed them. Not through one difficult day. Not through one heavy burden. But through ordinary evenings like this. Through carrying tiredness all the way home. Ahead, warm smoke rises into the sky from cooking fires. Thin gray lines drift upward and slowly disappear into deepening blue above the village. The smell of bread reaches them. Warm grain. Smoke. Familiar comfort. The boy breathes in slowly. Children knew these evening smells almost as deeply as they knew the voices of family members. The scent itself could make tired bodies feel lighter. Because it meant rest was coming closer. Because it meant home was waiting. Near another home, a little girl sits beside her grandmother outside beneath the soft evening air. Reeds rest beside them, unfinished work lying quietly nearby. For now, hands have become still. The grandmother looks toward the sky. The little girl follows her gaze. Birds cross overhead in small groups. Dark shapes moving against fading light. They travel without hurry. Slow wings. Gentle movement. The child watches until they disappear. Ancient evenings offered many moments for watching. The world itself changed slowly enough to observe. Light fading from walls. Shadows stretching across roads. Stars beginning to appear. Children carried curiosity into these quiet hours. Not loud curiosity. Not restless curiosity. A softer kind. The kind that simply watches. Near the Nile, fishermen complete the last small tasks of the day. Boats are tied securely. Nets are folded. Ropes rest in neat circles upon the ground. Hands that worked all day finally become still. A young child sits nearby beside his older brother. Neither speaks. They simply watch the river. The Nile moves beneath evening colors now. Gold gives way slowly to orange. Orange softens toward blue. Tiny ripples spread across the surface and disappear. Spread and disappear. Spread and disappear. The child watches for a long while. Children often understood something important without speaking it. Everything moved in rhythms. Morning became afternoon. Afternoon became evening. The river flowed. The seasons turned. Work ended and returned again. Life itself moved like breathing. Steady. Patient. Reliable. Across the village, voices grow softer as darkness slowly gathers at the edges of the world. Warm air brushes through narrow streets. Animals settle into familiar places. The longest work of the day is nearly behind them now. And beneath the quiet sky of ancient Egypt, children continue growing through ordinary moments, learning strength and patience one evening at a time. The sun now rests low above the horizon, and evening spreads gently across the land beside the Nile. The light over ancient Egypt grows softer with every passing moment. Golden colors deepen and become richer. Mud brick homes seem warmer beneath the fading glow. Dust hanging in the air catches the last sunlight and turns briefly into drifting pieces of gold. The day is slowly letting go. Across the village, footsteps continue returning home. A young boy walks beside his father with tired legs and dusty sandals. He feels the long hours resting quietly inside his body now. His shoulders feel heavy. His feet feel slow. Even his thoughts seem quieter than they were in the morning. Children often carried this evening feeling with them. A softness after effort. A stillness after movement. A quiet understanding that the day had asked much from them. Around them other families move along familiar roads. Voices rise gently and fade away. Someone calls to animals returning home. Someone laughs softly from a doorway. Someone lifts a water jar with practiced hands. The village itself seems to settle slowly into rest. Near one home, a little girl sits outside while warm evening air moves across her face. Her mother kneels nearby preparing the evening meal. Hands move calmly. Pressing dough. Turning bread. Adjusting warm coals beneath an oven. The little girl watches quietly. Children spend so much of life watching. Watching hands. Watching routines. Watching ordinary moments repeated across countless days. Sometimes learning looked almost invisible. No one announced it. No one pointed toward it. It simply happened. Little by little. Day after day. The smell of bread grows stronger now. Warm grain and smoke drip through the village. Children notice immediately. Bodies notice immediately. After long days beneath the sun, familiar smells carried comfort all by themselves. A young boy passing nearby lifts his head slightly. His tired eyes follow the scent without thinking. Because some things become part of memory so deeply that the body remembers them before the mind does. Far away beside the Nile, fishermen complete the final tasks of the evening. Boats rest against the shore. Ropes lie neatly beside folded nets. Water moves quietly beneath the last light of day. The river has changed colors again. Bright gold has faded. Now softer colors spread across its surface. Blue. Purple. Deep silver near the shadows. A child sits near the water with knees pulled close and watches the river moving through evening. He has spent much of his life near these waters already. Listening to them. Watching them. Walking beside them. Children of the Nile grew up with the river always nearby. Its sounds lived beside sleep. Its waters lived beside food and work and family life. Perhaps the child does not think of these things. Perhaps he simply watches the ripples moving toward shore. That is enough. The air becomes cooler now. Very slowly. Warmth gathered during the day begins leaving the earth. People feel relief settle gently across tired bodies. Shoulders loosen. Breathing deepens. Hands become still. Birds disappear toward places of rest. Animals settle into shadows and corners. The sky above grows deeper with every passing moment. And beneath the fading light of ancient Egypt, children continue their quiet journey toward adulthood, carried gently by ordinary evenings and the patient rhythm of life beside the Nile. The evening continues unfolding softly across the ancient land, and darkness begins gathering slowly around the edges of the world. The last sunlight rests gently upon the Nile, and the river carries fading colors across its surface like long ribbons drifting through water. Gold becomes softer. Orange becomes deeper. Soon the sky will belong to blue and stars. Across the village, the long day is finally becoming quiet. A young boy reaches home beside his family and steps through the doorway with tired feet. Dust still rests across his sandals and around his ankles. His shoulders feel lighter now that the work of the day has been placed behind him. Inside the home, warmth from cooking fires fills the air. Bread rests nearby. Simple food waits upon low surfaces. Familiar smells surround him. Children knew these moments well. The moment after returning home. The moment where tired hands no longer needed to carry anything. The moment where the body slowly understood that rest had finally arrived. Nearby, his mother moves calmly through evening routines. Hands place things away. Hands prepare food. Hands complete the final small tasks of the day. So much of life in ancient Egypt unfolded through these quiet repeated movements. Not through great changes. Not through grand moments. Through ordinary evenings repeated over years and years. A little girl sits near the doorway of another home with her chin resting upon her knees. The air outside has become cooler now. Warmth still rises from the ground, but the heavy heat of midday has finally loosened its hold. She watches the road before her. People continue walking past. Some carry tools. Some carry baskets. Some carry nothing at all now. Children often watched evening roads. The roads felt different at this hour. Morning roads carried purpose. Midday roads carried labor. Evening roads carried tiredness and relief. Sandals move more slowly now. Voices become softer. The whole village seems to exhale. Nearby, an older man sits quietly outside his home. Years have bent his shoulders slightly. Years have slowed his steps. A young boy sits beside him. Neither says much. They simply watch the sky changing together. Ancient childhood often included moments like these. Moments where children sat beside older people while the world gradually became night. No lesson needed speaking. Sometimes simply sitting beside another person carried its own kind of teaching. The boy glances upward. Above him, the first star appears. Small. Bright. Quiet. Then another appears. And another. Children of ancient Egypt knew these stars deeply. They saw them every night. Night skies stretched endlessly above villages and rivers and fields. Without bright lamps reaching into darkness, the heavens felt enormous. The stars lived close beside everyday life. Children slept beneath them. Walked beneath them. Dreamed beneath them. Near the Nile, fishermen finish their final work and prepare to leave the shore. Boats rest quietly now. Wood touches water with soft sounds. The river itself seems calmer beneath fading light. A child lingers nearby for a few moments longer. He watches ripples moving toward shore. Listens to reeds brushing gently together. Feels evening air moving across tired skin. There is no hurry now. The day has almost finished speaking. Night waits patiently ahead. Across the village, cooking fires glow softly. Warm light flickers against walls. Voices become fewer. Birds have disappeared. Animals settle into sleep. And beneath the slowly darkening sky of ancient Egypt, children continue learning the quiet rhythm of endurance, carried gently through another ordinary day beside the endless waters of the Nile. Night slowly opens across the ancient world now, spreading softly over the Nile and over the villages resting beside it. The last traces of sunlight fade from the horizon, leaving behind a deep blue sky where stars continue appearing one by one. The land grows quieter. Not all at once. Slowly. Very slowly. Voices fade. Footsteps disappear. Cooking fires become smaller. The long day finally begins settling into rest. Inside homes made of mud brick, families gather close together. Warm light from small flames dances softly across walls and floors. Shadows move gently and then become still again. A young boy sits with his family beside the evening meal. The day still lives inside his body. His arms feel heavy. His legs feel tired. Even lifting his hands seems slower now. Children often reach this hour carrying the weight of an entire day inside them. Not only the weight of baskets and jars and small tasks. The weight of walking. The weight of sunlight. The weight of growing. Around him, familiar voices rise quietly. Nothing loud. Nothing hurried. Only soft conversation after long hours of labor. Children listen to these voices throughout their lives. Parents speaking. Brothers and sisters talking quietly. Grandparents sharing small thoughts and memories. Voices carried comfort. Voices carried home. Nearby, a little girl leans sleepily against her mother's shoulder. Her eyes grow heavier with every passing moment. She tries to stay awake. Tries to keep listening. But sleep has begun arriving quietly. Children often welcomed sleep quickly after long days. Their bodies asked for it. Their muscles asked for it. Their tired eyes asked for it. Outside, the air feels cooler now. Warmth from the day slowly leaves the earth and drifts upward into the night. Families begin preparing places to sleep. Some settle inside their homes. Others climb gently onto flat rooftops where evening air moves more freely beneath the stars. A young child lies upon a woven mat beneath the open sky. The stone beneath him still carries a little warmth from sunlight gathered during the day. Above him stretches an endless sea of stars. He watches quietly. Children often watched the sky before sleep came. Perhaps they looked for familiar shapes among the stars. Perhaps they listened to distant sounds from the river. Perhaps they simply enjoyed the stillness. Far away, the Nile continues its endless movement through darkness. Water brushes softly against reeds. Boats shift gently where they rest along the shore. The river never truly sleeps. Children grew up knowing these sounds. Night after night. Year after year. The Nile remained beside them like a quiet companion. Nearby, someone exhales slowly in sleep. Someone shifts beneath a blanket. Someone murmurs softly and then becomes still again. Small sounds of resting life drift through the darkness. The young child watches the stars a little longer. His eyes begin closing. Then opening. Then closing once more. The day feels far away now. The heat has faded. The roads have become silent. The work has been set down. Tomorrow will come. Tomorrow always comes. But tonight asks nothing more from him. Tonight only asks for rest. And beneath the peaceful skies of ancient Egypt, tired children drift slowly towards sleep while the patient Nile continues flowing through the quiet night. The night deepens gently over ancient Egypt, and the world beside the Nile becomes wrapped in a calm and quiet stillness. Darkness rests across the fields where crops wait beneath the stars. Dusty roads that carried so many footsteps during the day now lie empty beneath moonlight. The earth feels peaceful, almost as if it too has become tired. Above, the stars shine clearly across the sky. So many stars. Small lights scattered endlessly overhead. Ancient nights often felt enormous. Children lying beneath these skies could look upward and feel the world stretching far beyond the village, beyond the river, beyond the fields and desert sands. A young boy lies on a rooftop beside his family. A thin blanket rests lightly across him. His eyes are half closed, half open. The space between waking and sleep moves gently around him. Nearby, slow breathing rises and falls. Someone has already drifted into deep sleep. Someone turns quietly beneath the blanket. Someone sighs softly. Night sounds are small sounds. Gentle sounds. The boy watches the stars for a little longer. His thoughts drift slowly now. The day feels distant. Morning work feels distant. The long hours beneath sunlight feel distant. Tiredness has softened everything. Children often entered sleep this way. Not suddenly. Not all at once. Sleep arrived like evening arriving over the Nile. Little by little. Slowly and quietly. Far away near the riverbank, moonlight rests upon the Nile itself. The water carries silver light along its moving surface. Small ripples appear and disappear. Reeds bend softly in the night breeze. A boat tied along the shore shifts gently against its rope. Even in darkness the river continues. Always moving. Always patient. Always there. Children grew up with this quiet certainty. The Nile would be there tomorrow. Morning would return. Bread would bake. Fields would wait. The world would continue turning through its familiar rhythms. Inside a nearby home, a little girl sleeps beside her family on woven mats spread across the floor. One hand rests beneath her cheek. Strands of hair fall softly across her face. Children sleeping after long days often look deeply peaceful. During the day their feet moved endlessly. Their hands worked. Their eyes watched. Their bodies carried small responsibilities. But sleep asked for none of those things. Sleep simply held them gently for a while. Outside, warm air from the day has almost completely faded now. Cool night breezes move slowly through narrow roads and between homes. Mud brick walls release the last small pieces of warmth they gathered beneath the sun. Animals sleep quietly near walls and corners. Birds rest silently in hidden places. The village itself seems to breathe slowly beneath the stars. Hours pass. The moon travels across the sky. Time moves with such softness that sleeping children never notice it at all. And somewhere beyond the quiet horizon, tomorrow already waits. Not loudly. Not impatiently. Only waiting. Waiting beside the Nile. Waiting beside fields and roads and bread ovens. Waiting for children to wake and continue their long lesson in endurance beneath the ancient sky. The night continues its quiet journey across the land, and the stars drift slowly overhead above the Nile and the sleeping villages beside it. Time moves gently now. No one feels it passing. The roads remain still. The workshops remain dark. The ovens rest quietly after their long work through the day. Only the river continues its endless movement. Water touches the shore. Reeds sway softly. A faint breeze passes over the Nile and carries cool air through the darkness. The world feels far away from effort now. Far away from labor. Far away from the warmth and dust of the day. A young boy sleeping on a rooftop shifts slightly beneath his blanket. His breathing rises and falls in slow rhythms. One hand rests near his face. Sleep has carried him far from the fields and roads and baskets he knew during the day. Children often slept deeply after long hours of movement. The body understands rest in simple ways. After carrying. After walking. After watching. After learning. The body quietly says enough for today. Nearby, his younger sister sleeps beside their mother. Earlier she had carried water. Earlier she had helped prepare grain. Earlier she had walked dusty roads beneath sunlight. Now none of that remains. Sleep has gathered the whole day and set it gently aside. Ancient childhood carried many responsibilities. Small responsibilities at first. Then larger ones over time. But night did something kind. Night removed every burden for a few hours. No baskets to lift. No roads to walk. No tasks waiting. Only rest. Far away near the riverbank, the moon rests above the Nile like a pale lantern hanging in the sky. Its light spreads softly across the water. Silver reflections drift and break apart. Drift and break apart. Drift and break apart. A boat tied to a post moves gently with the current. Wood brushes quietly against wood. Then silence returns again. Ancient nights often felt full of space. Space above. Space around. Space between sounds. Children grew up inside that stillness. They knew what true darkness felt like. They knew skies filled with stars from one edge of the world to the other. They knew the feeling of cool air arriving after long heat. Inside homes and upon rooftops, families continue sleeping. Dreams move quietly through tired minds. Perhaps a child dreams of following boats across the Nile. Perhaps of birds rising suddenly from reeds. Perhaps of running through fields where feet feel light and no work waits at all. Or perhaps dreams drift without shape. Like clouds moving across distant skies. Hours continue passing. Slowly. Very slowly. The moon travels farther west. Some stars begin slipping lower toward the horizon. Night itself has begun changing again. Morning still feels distant. Yet the world has already started preparing. Ancient life moved through endless circles. Morning became evening. Evening became night. Night quietly turned back toward morning. Children grew inside these circles. Day after day. Season after season. Without noticing how much they were changing. Without seeing strength arrive little by little. Without seeing childhood slowly flowing forward like the Nile itself. The cool wind brushes softly across rooftops now. Sleeping faces remain peaceful. And beneath the endless sky of ancient Egypt, another quiet night continues carrying tired children gently toward tomorrow. The night moves onward with calm and patient steps, and the world beside the Nile remains wrapped in deep stillness. Above the sleeping villages, stars continue their slow journey across the sky. The moon has traveled farther now, and its pale light rests gently across rooftops and roads and quiet fields. Everything feels soft. Everything feels still. The long work of the day has faded completely into rest. A young child sleeping beneath the stars shifts slightly and pulls a blanket closer. The night air has grown cooler than it was earlier. Not cold, only gentle. The kind of coolness that feels welcome after a day filled with heat. Around him, family members sleep peacefully. Slow breathing rises and falls. Someone turns quietly. Someone settles again. Small sounds drip through the darkness and disappear. Ancient nights carried these quiet sounds. Nothing loud. Nothing sudden. Only reminders that life continued gently even during sleep. Far away beside the Nile, moonlight still dances across moving water. The river never stops. Even while villages sleep. Even while children dream. The Nile keeps traveling through darkness toward places unseen. Children grew beside this quiet certainty. The river would continue. Morning would return. The world would begin again. Perhaps without realizing it, they learned comfort from this. The comfort of familiar rhythms. The comfort of knowing that tomorrow would arrive as it always had. Nearby, a little girl sleeps inside a mud brick home beside her brothers and sisters. Warmth from the day has nearly left the walls now. The room feels calm and peaceful. One small hand rests across her blanket. Her breathing is slow. Deep. Quiet. Children sleeping after long days often looked as though every piece of movement had gently flowed out of them. During daylight they had carried so many small things. Bundles of reeds. Clay jars. Baskets. Water. Instructions. Expectations. The quiet weight of growing up. But none of those things followed them into sleep. Night placed them all down. For a little while, childhood simply became rest. Hours continue passing. The moon dripped slower. The stars nearest the eastern horizon begin looking softer now. Not because they are changing. Because something else is slowly arriving. Morning. Still far away. Still hidden beyond the edge of the world. Yet already moving closer. The ancient world knew this rhythm deeply. No day remained forever. No night remained forever. Everything traveled forward quietly. Children understood this through feeling rather than words. Morning always came. Fields always waited. Bread ovens always warmed. Feet always returned to dusty roads. Life itself moved patiently onward. Outside, a soft wind passes through narrow village roads. It brushes reeds near the riverbank. Moves through palm leaves. Touches sleeping faces upon rooftops. Then drifts onward into darkness. The stars continue watching over the land. The Nile continues flowing. And beneath the endless sky of ancient Egypt, tired children continue sleeping peacefully, gathering quiet strength before another ordinary day begins beside the river. The night has become very quiet now. The Nile continues its gentle journey through darkness, moving slowly beneath the stars that stretch across the ancient sky. Silver moonlight rests upon the water, breaking softly into small ripples that appear and disappear along the shore. The village sleeps. The roads are empty. The workshops are still. The ovens have grown cool. No sandals touch the stone paths now. No voices drip through the evening air. Only soft breathing remains. Only the whisper of wind moving through reeds beside the river. Children rest beneath blankets and woven mats. Their hands, busy through so many ordinary days, have become still. Their tired feet no longer walk dusty roads. Their shoulders no longer carry baskets or jars. Tonight, there is nothing left to carry. Nothing left to lift. Nothing left to learn. The long lesson of endurance can rest now. Above them, the stars remain where they have always been, watching silently over fields and villages and the endless river below. They watched countless children grow beside these waters. They watched seasons come and go. They watched ordinary lives unfold in small quiet moments. Morning will return one day. Warm bread will rise again. The Nile will continue flowing. Birds will cross the sky. Children will wake and step into new days waiting patiently ahead. But not now. Now there is only this peaceful ancient night. Only cool air. Only quiet water. Only distant reeds brushing gently together. The river moves on beneath the stars. Slowly. Softly. Without hurry. And little by little, the ancient world grows quieter still, until even the silence seems ready for sleep.